Welcome to the Truth Podcast. Today, we're excited to have Maurice Jackson with us, born and raised in Rochester, New York. Maurice is a proud alum of the Boys and Girls Club, where he began to cultivate his love for sports. He attended John Marshall High School, where he excelled in both football, track, and field, earning the All Greater Rochester Player of the Year honors as a senior. Maurice continued his athletic journey at Syracuse University, where he played college football and earned 4 letters. His professional career includes time in the NFL with the Buffalo Bills and in the Canadian Football League with the British Columbia Lions. He also made a significant mark with the Rochester Raiders, becoming the team's all-time leader in receiving touchdowns, return touchdowns, and receptions. Beyond his playing career, Maurice is the co-owner of the Speed Factory and the owner of MJ Speed and Skill School. He also is a co-owner of the Playmakers podcast and recently served as the varsity football coach at the Aquinas Institute, where he led his team to the 2024 Section 5 championship and is a semifinal finish in the state playoffs. So, Mo, I want to welcome you to the podcast.
Yes,
that was a lot to get through. Hopefully I covered enough of who and what you've done.
Thanks for the warm welcome.
As I said before we went on, I've actually known you since you was about 12 years old, transitioning from middle school to high school.
Yep.
And obviously I met you at the Boys and Girls Club along with a host of other great athletes in Rochester.
That's right.
So some people don't know you was also a tough basketball player.
Yeah.
But, kind of talk about that and why you ended up, giving up basketball.
Basketball was my pastime, of course. When the snow was on the ground, we all gathered at the Boys and Girls Club, and it was basketball every day.
Yeah.
So we all got good, But I got it going a little bit. I could play. I started varsity as a sophomore. And a lot of people and coaches say if I would have pursued that, I could have probably chose to go D1 in either sport. But football was my love, and basketball was there. But I'm 5'7" and all that, but
you had some hops too, though.
Yeah.
I've seen you dunk before.
Yeah.
So you had some hops. It wasn't as if you had some hops. I remember, I don't know if it was a game or at the club where I seen you. You caught a dunk before, so I was really impressed. I didn't understand the athlete that you were then, and if you remember, I was coming to your games.
Yeah.
I was supporting you, Porter, Rick Moultrie, the whole crew of people. And I'm probably missing some people, but it's not intentional. But those are the 3 people that stick out. You probably remember I took you guys to play in a tournament out in Brockport, and y'all was crushing everybody.
I remember.
So, I don't know if you went with us when we went to Boston. I know Rick went. I took Tanisha. I can't remember how I took to play.
I didn't go to Boston.
Okay, we went to play in a tournament up there, and Tanisha was the only girl that I had on the team.
Yeah,
and she was the only girl on any of the teams.
Yeah.
And we put in work. We was at the Boys and Girls Club in Roxbury.
Yeah, she played with us every day, so she was ready.
God. Oh, she was a killer.
Yep.
Even though she couldn't do nothing with me, I hope you're watching this, Tanisha. You do realize that you couldn't do nothing with
fired.
the OG. She'll say something to me about
she
it.
Will.
Okay,
for sure.
So, with that being said, did you play? You obviously played Pee Wee football. Who'd you play for?
Southwest.
I just wanted to make sure. I didn't want the devil to get no joy in here.
Started in 1988. Lived right across the street from where they practiced at. So one day my dad got my brother and I, walked us across the street, and the rest is history.
So, you talking about when they practiced at the field on Arnett?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, yeah. So that's how you got started in football? Okay. Yep. How many years did you play for Southwest?
I played because I was young. I was small too. I played 2 years of junior Pee Wee, 1 year Pee Wee, and then 1 year junior midget. So 4 years total. I skipped a year in between, and that's when I found my love for football.
Okay.
In 1988, I played. I was real young though. I think I was 8 years old, and everybody else was 9 or 10. But I didn't get to touch the ball until like four games into the season, and I scored a lot of touchdowns ever since then. I scored a bunch of touchdowns, and I think it was some crazy number, like 19 touchdowns in 4 games or something like that. But I didn't play the next year because I wasn't used to going to practice and working hard and all that kind of stuff. So I sat out a year, and that was the worst time of my life. I was watching the games. I would go up to Madison and watch the games, and I'm like, man, I really miss playing football.
Yeah.
So from then on, I didn't miss a year.
And I knew you played for Southwest because it would be disrespectful, and people do it now more than ever. You can't be on the West Side. and go play for somebody else.
No,
Cats do it now. They don't care who they play. But traditionally, that's what you did. You're going to play for the Southwest Coast if you live on the West Side.
Right.
So let me ask you this question. How did your experience at the Boys and Girls Club shape your approach to sports and teamwork during your formative years?
Oh, man. The Boys and Girls Club was different for everybody, really, because that's where you got to find out what you were socially, because you got to make it at the club. You can't just go to the Boys and Girls Club and be nobody or be the square of the group, because everybody gonna let you know.
Yeah.
So it was basketball, it was drilling, and you had to find yourself. That's where you learned as kids. That's where we all learned to stick up for ourselves. That's where we learned that you can't be a pushover.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of us got the killer instinct in us in sports. Because it was so competitive every single day you had to come with it. And if you were on the court and you was one of those dudes that wasn't, contributing to your team, you got kicked off the court, you got talked about, and you wasn't picked the next time. So you had to thrive and you had to be a dog.
Yep.
So I think that's where all of us got it from. All that competition every single day.
And then y'all had adults around y'all.
Yeah.
That,
so we had
like, if I played with y'all, I was trying to kill y'all too.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't no mercy. Yep. It's funny because kids would be like, "Why are you talking? Why are you doing this?" Yeah. Like, and I actually had a kid say this to me a couple years ago. He said, "Oh, you gonna just come on the court and bully me?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Right.
He was like, "You won't stop talking." And I'm like, "Are you serious?
Right.
Like, you literally are being." I'm able to stop you from playing just by using words. Are you serious?
Right.
But you're right. In that environment, you're gonna get swallowed up. You're not gonna succeed if you are bothered. And what they call bullying now.
Oh man,
that was
everyday normal stuff.
Everyday normal. Yeah.
If that bothered you, you was in the wrong place.
You were done. You were done
for sure.
Listen, and it's crazy because you had no other choice but to be decent in basketball.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's the wintertime.
Yep.
We're in the club. And you can go up to the Boys and Girls Club now and nobody's in the gym.
Yeah, I know. I went through there a couple days ago, and it was just different. They were doing different things. Some people were in the gym when I was there, but it wasn't like we were.
Oh, listen, Reggie was telling me, who runs that part of the program, he was like, "Man, you're not going to see a full court basketball game, and they barely want to play half court."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Are you serious?" Because y'all love the fact that you had a place you could go to every day.
Yeah. If somebody else was on the court, we got mad. Like, get them out of here. We got to play basketball.
Yeah, why you got volleyball going on here?
Yeah. It was bad. Yeah, it's different though. So yeah, it's good because kids are getting into different things. But that's where you created a bunch of ballers.
Okay, so you go to John Marshall High School. Reflect on your time at John Marshall and what were some pivotal moments that contributed to your success at John Marshall, and ultimately you become an all-Greater Rochester Player of the Year?
Oh man, it's a bunch of things. Starting out with even going to Marshall. So Marshall wasn't the place to be if you were trying to, make it. It had a bad name because of, I guess they say the thugs went to Marshall, whatever. But I was actually on my way to going to McQuaid. McQuaid had recruited me or whatever, and I was going there. I was going to be able to go for free. And my coach, my Little League coach, but a family friend, he knocked on the door the morning I was supposed to go to McQuaid and told my parents he wasn't letting me go. Brian, Coach Ragland.
Yeah.
So he knocked on the door early in the morning. He had that kind of relationship with my family. So he said, "No, me, Eddie, I don't know what y'all gonna be mad at me, but I'm taking my boy and he going to Marshall." So it was Coach B that got me in the door at Marshall. And when I got there, in that conversation, my mom said, "All right, Brian, you better take care of my son." And that was it. So end up going to Marshall, and it was like the Boys and Girls Club environment. So I was comfortable.
Yeah.
But it brought out the best in me as an athlete because the competition every day, whether you're playing basketball, football, or track, you were going up against some dudes every single day. And when you're in an environment like that, it just makes you better. So my time at Marshall started at my JV year, where I was coming from junior midget football right to JV. I didn't get a chance to play midget, which is a higher level, highest level in Pop Warner. So I was kind of scared, going to play high school football. I'm like,
really?
I'm just jumping in there with the big boys. Yeah. So my first game, it was against Wilson. I'll never forget it. Porter and myself, we played it, on the same team.
That had to be
And,
crazy.
yeah,
You and Porter.
So he was running back and I was a receiver. Now I never played receiver ever. I was always a running back, but I was too small to play running back in high school. So they moved me out to receiver, and the first 2 passes ever thrown to me were touchdowns.
Who was your quarterback then? Mighty?
No, it was Scooty. Mark
Okay.
Lee.
Okay.
God bless the dead. Yep. So Scooty was a quarterback. He threw it up, and I caught him, and it was 2 touchdowns. And I'm like, okay, this ain't gonna be too bad then.
So they got you at receiver
Yeah.
and Porter at running back.
Porter scored
Oh
3
my
touchdowns
God.
that first game. Both our first games, he had 3, I had 2.
That's crazy.
And that's just pretty much how our whole high school career went. He had some eligibility issues where he just didn't want to do no schoolwork, but
Porter gonna
from
get you for that.
Yeah. So no, he ain't. We talk about it all the time. So from there, it was my JV year. They moved us up to varsity. Now, Porter and I, we were
This is
together
ninth
every day.
grade?
No, this is 9th grade. We had our 9th grade year.
Okay.
Our second year, 10th grade. Porter and I were at Coach B's house. We were getting ready to go bowling or something. We always went bowling, the group of us. So we were sitting there, and that's when Coach Jones called on the phone and said, Mo and Porter going up to varsity next year.
Whoa.
We both looked at each other like, man, we ain't playing no varsity. You tripping. Like, we ain't doing that. But he like, yes, you are. So we moved up to varsity, and my sophomore year on the varsity, it was me getting used to the speed of the game.
Now is Chauncey with y'all?
No, Chauncey was younger than us.
Okay.
Yep. So my sophomore year, so playing varsity, I kind of made my name in the East game. Marshall hadn't beat East in 18 years, and they had they punted to us at the end of the game, and I picked
already
it up
know.
and I returned it. And it
How
was
many
like,
yards?
Like 78 yards.
Oh,
something
my
like
God.
That. So I returned it for a touchdown, and I'm thinking like, okay, I just scored a touchdown. I've been scoring touchdowns all my life, but it was this big thing because I scored the winning touchdown to snap the 18-year losing streak. So I'm like, oh shit, maybe I did something. Maybe that was important. But from there it was like,
But you always been like this.
Yeah.
So I could see how you wasn't thinking like it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I've never seen you like, I knew you was like that about it. Like if you're gonna defend, you're gonna defend, you're gonna
Right,
do your thing.
right, yeah,
but you
yeah.
was never like,
yeah,
you know
I
what I'm
always
saying?
kept it under control.
Yeah.
I was that I got in trouble for that so many times, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, so I sophomore year I kind of made my mark, and then after that it was like, okay, Mo is one of those guys that you gotta talk about in the paper every week. Going into my junior year, I kind of dominated the our city Catholic league, and then senior year is when Coach Jones came to me with these 2 bags of college letters and was like, here you go. He said I didn't want to give it to you.
that's when they used to send them to the school.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got that's when I found out that I was really playing football at a high level. So going into my senior year, Coach Jones had to choose between basketball and football. His love was basketball, so he wasn't coaching football no more. So I just had to make it through that year healthy because I had all these offers from all these schools. So I just needed to get through the football season and get through the track season, and then
So
take my
let me
scholarship
ask you
and
this though. You're saying this, he comes with the bag of mail. You're not even thinking Division I football. You're just in school playing football,
Right.
having a good time,
Right.
doing your thing,
Yep.
not even realizing what you're doing.
Right.
And to the level of what you're doing, till this man hands you a bag full of letters.
Yep.
How many schools were recruiting you, if you can remember that time?
Man, it was. I think I ended up with like 36 offers, D1 offers. As far as schools that recruit me, I had them all from the East to the West Coast. Yeah, so
It
matter.
can't
it
necessarily
really put a
remember.
name on it.
Yeah.
I just know I got letters from Pitt, Wisconsin, and Maryland every single day, like literally every day, different mail coming in. But I chose Syracuse because it was close to home. My family didn't have a lot of money, so I wanted to make sure that they could come to the games and stuff. So I stayed close, and it worked out for me.
So you becoming All Greater Rochester Player of the Year wasn't even on your radar.
No, I knew I was scoring touchdowns. I knew I was making noise and naming the paper and all that. But I'm like, it's a lot of other people in the paper too. But I really wasn't thinking of what kind of scale I was on. It really wasn't until I started winning on the track that Coach Jones told me all the letters started coming in, because they say you can be scoring a lot of touchdowns, but we don't know what kind of competition you're playing against. But when they saw that I was putting down those legit track times, then they was like, okay, he's really an athlete, and what you're seeing on film ain't a joke.
So what races were you in? The 100?
I was in the 100.
Was you in the 2?
I did the 200 sometimes, but not often. But I was in the 100. But I was a jumper. I did the long jump and high jump. So it was a culmination of showing the athleticism. You know, guys. I was winning the states too. I was a state champion in track. So they're seeing that, and they're seeing them.
Wait a minute, you were a state champion in track in the 100?
Yeah, I'm an 11-time state champion total between indoor and outdoor track. So the 55, I won the long jump 2 years in a row, or 2 or 3 years in a row, and then our relays won.
How did I not know that?
Yeah,
I guess I was so focused on what you were doing football wise, I wasn't even looking.
That's what.
Because I wasn't running around coming to y'all track meets.
Right.
Like so.
Yeah.
So wait a minute. You said an 11-time state champion.
So I won the 55 2 years in a row, indoor,
Mm-hmm.
the long jump, both years. I think I won the long jump 3 years, from a sophomore to senior. Then our relays won both years, and then outdoor I won the 100 in our relays and long jump.
What was your time in the 100?
My fastest 100 time was 10:22.
He almost made me cuss. So I have a cousin who ran track, Zilla Higgs.
Yeah, no, Zilla.
And she
I
actually,
met her a couple times.
Yeah,
She was before me.
actually went to the University of Miami.
Miami, yeah.
And it was kind of like the same thing with you. She was getting all these letters, and she was like,
yeah, she was the inspiration for a lot of people in track.
Stop it.
Because a lot of people wasn't really serious about track until they saw Zilla go to UM. When they said, when everybody was talking about Zilla going to Miami, the Hurricanes, to run track, that kind of sparked a lot of people.
wow. I'm sure she doesn't even know that.
Her, dudes like Boogie from Franklin.
Yeah.
With the whole Squeaky, that team. And then Jarman and all them. Like, Zilla was one of the people that people talked about and was like, yo, you can really go to school for track.
I don't want to I want to say that Zilla and Boogie dated.
I think you might be right.
Yeah, I want to say that. If I'm wrong, Zilla, please forgive me. But anyway, yeah. So wait a minute. But so you're after Zilla?
Yeah. Yep.
A couple
After
years.
Them. Yep. A couple years after them. Yep.
But I'm gonna make sure she see this part of the podcast.
Yeah.
She doesn't know that.
Yeah, I've never talked to her about it. I think I met her once. But yeah, people from here seeing that she was going to the Hurricane, going to Miami to run track was like, yo, that's crazy. Like, somebody from here going to Miami.
Because we wasn't seeing it a lot.
Exactly.
But you know what's crazy is when we were kids, it's sadly enough that I always tell my sons, I would say, if I bet you something, it's because it's a bet I know I can win. So you should know right up front, Kyron, not to bet with me because it's a bet I know I can win.
Right.
I don't make any bets I know I can't win. So I used to be like, on the streets, I'd be like, yo, I bet you $10 you can't beat my cousin running.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And she a girl.
Yeah, and she a girl, right? And they'd be like,
right,
man, please. And you know, when you're young, you talk stupid like, man, I got my new sneakers on. I'm going to kill her today.
Right.
Then dudes would be like, but if I take my sneakers off,
yeah.
So you know, like, yeah. She was just kind of just beating them. She'd be done. She'd be like,
right.
But she was smoking dudes on the street. And the only reason why I knew it, because she was smoking me.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? I bet you can't beat my cousin running. And she'd run. She doesn't know that I was gambling because I wasn't about sharing my winnings.
There you go.
But I would leave with $20, $30. I'm like, you know what I'm saying?
Same thing my brother did with me.
Yeah.
Same thing.
He was? Really? Talking about Eddie?
Yeah, no, man. My older
man?
brother.
Okay. Because Eddie younger. So,
Eddie younger.
Okay.
Yeah.
So same thing. So you're having all the success. You're not even thinking about all of that. You're just playing football, running track, enjoying high school, and you have all these letters.
Yeah.
And then you pick Syracuse simply because it's up the road. You're like, we don't have a lot of money. I'm not about to go far away. My parents probably can't come to anything I do if I go far away. If you didn't pick Syracuse, what school do you think you would have picked?
Miami.
Wow.
Yep. I was going to Miami. I didn't take my visit there. I didn't take an official visit there.
Thank God you did.
Because I think I would have chose it. I would have went down there and been down there and that would have been that. But
Yeah, you would have been
I
like,
vacationed in
"Thank you,
Miami.
Lord."
I've been vacationing in Miami every year since though.
Yes.
That's where I go. That's my spot.
It's-
But yeah, it would have been Miami. Yeah.
Wow. And listen, it's funny you say that because Zilla, I remember her telling me about her visits.
Mm-hmm.
The one place she went was UNLV. And she, UNLV is like
Yeah.
literally down the street from the Strip.
Yeah.
And she was like, there's no way I could
Right.
come to school out here
Right.
and survive.
Right.
And we right down the street from the Strip. It's so much stuff you could do.
Yeah.
And so I said, so you picked the University of Miami? It's like,
Right.
what you mean?
Ain't no difference, right?
What's the difference, right?
Right, right.
She was like, well, the campus was a little further from South Beach,
Yeah,
da. And so I felt like, okay, this is something I can do. But she said definitely when she went on her visit, she was like, oh, yes, I got to come.
I
Yeah.
know if I would have went, I'd have chose Miami for sure.
Yeah, you did the right thing.
Right.
You did the right
Right.
thing. So you end up at Syracuse. Or you choose Syracuse. Syracuse you said the other schools, this particular schools you told about, was sending you letters almost every day. Syracuse, was they recruiting you that hard?
Yeah, yep. Syracuse was right there in the mix. Coach Walker, Dave Walker, you know Dave. He came and got me. He came and recruited me. And Coach, the reason I chose Syracuse is because of the visit that I had with Coach Pasqualoni. He came here. He came to my house to recruit me. My mom made lasagna, right? It was my favorite food. So she made lasagna. She knew he's Italian. So we ate. We sat at the table. We ate. And then we went into the living room to talk. This man got up and said, I'm going to go get myself another piece. That was good. So he got up and went into the kitchen, fixed himself another plate, and came back. I was like, yeah, he's real. I like him. So I'm gonna go with him. I like him. So
Just off of that?
it felt like home. You know what I'm saying? It felt like he was a good dude enough to do that. And I'm like, all right, I like this dude.
And he Italian, so he's
Yeah.
he should know if lasagna is good or
exactly.
not.
So
kudos
so I
to
was
mom.
like, that did it for me. That kind of sealed the deal. It was like he's down to earth. He's cool. And Syracuse was right up the street. And then I had just started watching and seeing who Marvin Harrison was.
Yeah.
And I had no clue. When I tell you I was just playing football, I didn't watch college football. I didn't watch none of that stuff. But I just started, once school started coming aboard, I started paying attention to dudes.
Well,
So
wait a minute. I gotta ask you. So you weren't watching college football. Were you watching the NFL?
Yeah. I was
Okay.
watching the NFL. Yeah.
All right.
So I know nothing about college, but I was watching the NFL. But so I started seeing who Marvin Harrison was, and I saw McNabb and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so then I went on my visit to Syracuse, and they treat you like a king when you're on your visit. So it was like it felt good. Yeah.
So you go to Syracuse. At this time, I got to ask you this because this is something I always wanted to know. When you get to Syracuse, what's your fastest time at that time in the 40?
When I got there,
Yeah.
you mean my fastest time
Coming
ever?
from high school.
Oh, so it's a good question. I've never been timed in the 40 over and ran over a 4.3. So all my 40 times was 4.3 or lower, like 4.2, 4.29.
First of all, you ran a 4.2.
That's not even my fastest. Yeah.
What's your fastest?
My fastest time ever was my junior year at Syracuse. I ran a 4.18 and a 4.19. I did it twice.
You know, if you'd have went any faster, you'd have went back in time.
Yeah. That's a good one.
No,
But
seriously.
yeah. So that happened for me, and I think that was like just a blessing from God, because that kind of catapulted what I did after my playing days. But yeah, that happened. That was a special day. That's something I talked about that in my book, but it was a special day.
What were your biggest challenges you faced while transitioning from high school to college to play football at Syracuse, academic, the whole transition? What was your biggest challenge going from high school to college?
So my biggest challenge was understanding that you are not the man no more.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So when you get to college, it's older dudes that been playing there already. You're not the best football player out there because, for one, you don't know the speed of the game, you don't know the physicality of the game. But it was just understanding that you're not the man no more. You're gonna have to take your lumps and grow and learn, and then hopefully you become good enough to be the man one day. So I had to realize that when I got there, it was like I was playing football, like I said, but the work ethic wasn't there. And I realized that when I got there, all these dudes are working hard. Everybody's, got their eyes set on the league and all this other kind of stuff. So I realized right there that I had to get this kind of work ethic that they had, or I wasn't gonna make it. But that was a big transition in understanding that and taking what came with that. It wasn't just that. It was like you gotta go to practice, get beat up in practice, leave practice. When you leave in practice, you're dreading practice tomorrow already. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, I gotta do this again. But you gotta go to class. And then you gotta go home and have a social life, do whatever you want to do, but you're going to have to get up and go to class again and then go to practice again and get beat up again and do it for a whole year until it's your turn to, step on the field. I came out to be a true freshman, but it was some lump stuff.
So that hard work that you begin to put in, that also contributes to the fact that your times got faster.
Yeah.
Because you other than that, you were just running off pure talent until you understood how to run. Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
Yeah. And it was the weight room too. Getting there and going into a real weight program where the strength and conditioning coaches knew what they were doing. When I was in high school, we really didn't even lift weights. So we lift weights, but once you get in the squat rack and you get the leg press and you get to building your upper body up, you pretty much they pretty much turn you into a machine. Like, no joke.
Did you understand what it meant by the time you became a junior to run the 440 and a 4.1 and some change?
So I kind of knew what it was. I did, because so many dudes there that was chasing the times, right? So when I got there, I was a freshman. I was fast. It was dudes there. The dude that left the year before I got there, his name was Abrams. He played for the Detroit Lions. He had the record at Syracuse for the fastest time. I think he ran like a 4.25 or something. He had the record. So I'm small. I'm like, I got to be something. I got to be the fastest dude on this team, or it just ain't gonna work. You know what I'm saying? I'm the smallest, so I got to have something with me. So I started to work towards that, and when it happened, I felt like it was gonna happen. I was in the best shape of my life. We were doing morning agilities, and that is like them the dog days. You got to do all that kind of stuff. So I was in the best shape of my life, and me and one other guy, Will Allen, he's from Syracuse. He played with the Dolphins for a long time. We were chasing it. We were chasing each other, and when it happened, or the day before it happened, I was feeling good, and I remember going into the training room, with the trainers, getting a little stem machine treatment or whatever, and one of the trainers asked me, she said, "Mo, what you think you're gonna run today?" I said, I think I'm gonna crack it. I think I'm gonna crack it under 4.2, and I just felt good. I felt good, and when it happened, it was like, it was a story. It was.
You ran it one time?
I did it twice.
And both times, what was your scores? I
did 4.18 was first, and then I did a 4.19. Yeah, did a 4.19 after that. The 4.19 was documented. That's on the back of my rookie card when I was with the Bills. So it was documented. Everybody was there when they saw that one.
So because I don't cuss like I want to cuss. The flip, a 4.18, a 4.19.
Yeah. I never really looked into it, but I might be the only person to do it twice. I never really looked into it. It's only a small group of people that ever hit a 4.1, but I never looked into it. I know. It's
funny because I was watching Deion Sanders talk to his son the other day, and he was trying to ask his father how could he get better in his time.
Yeah, I saw that.
And he was like, basically, I ran, what he said, a 4.2 something for breakfast. In other words, he was like, I wasn't even trying.
Yeah.
And when he said that, I was like, man, Deion Sanders needs to stop telling lies.
No, he's telling the truth. Listen, my agent at the time was there when he did it. Deion, it was at the combine. It was at a pro day or something. Deion, no, it was at the combine, wherever it was at. He didn't come dressed to work out. He came in, and this is a story that everybody tells. He borrowed somebody's shoes and ran. He ran a 4.22 or something, and he took the shoes off and said, "Y'all know where to find me," and left. Everybody told the same story. My agent told us.
So he didn't warm up or nothing?
He didn't warm up or nothing. He said he was in the back of the line. He said he wanted to skip the line, but he couldn't.
That's the story he told as well.
And he borrowed somebody's shoes. He ran it and said, "Y'all know where to find me. I'm out." and that was it.
Because he was sitting there eating the little
Yeah, the little Crustables.
Crustables. Yeah. He was like, I ran.
Yeah.
I ran a 4-2
Yeah.
for breakfast.
Yeah.
Like I showed up and just.
Deion, my favorite athlete, so I know all that.
Listen, he one of my favorite athletes too.
Yeah.
And people who are, and I have to say this, and people probably get mad. People are weak-minded. Like people who like for example, people who watched The Last Dance and was offended by Michael Jordan, they're losers.
Yeah,
And
his mentality.
you
was his
cannot
mentality.
watch that and not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's a little hater in there if you don't like that.
Because you know this, Mo, and I may be using the wrong words, but to be an athlete at the highest level, you got to be somewhat of a jerk sometime. And what I mean by that is you can't care about nothing but killing people.
Yep. You got to have that edge. You got to have that. You got to have that chip on your shoulder because that's what motivates you.
Yeah.
That's all it's about.
And you're the most even killed guy, one of the most even killed guys I know. I never seen you getting into a lot of trouble. You wasn't scared to fight if you had to,
Right.
but you know, you understood from the Boys and Girls Club to high school to college that if you don't show up to compete and
right.
you ain't that dog,
Yep.
you gonna get lost
You
in the
gonna get ate
sauce,
up.
man.
Yeah.
So name some of the accolades, because you're in the Big East. This is when the Big East was something.
Big East was the Big East.
The Big East was it.
Yeah.
You're in the Big East. Name some of the accomplishments from your time in the Big East.
So we won the Big East championship twice. And when we won, I was young. So I came in and played as a true freshman. But we won the Big East twice. We beat a Miami team. We blew them out, really because Donovan McNabb, though. Like it was the best football player I ever played with. But so in the Big East, I was player of the week a few times, player of the month once. But it was just mainly like our team was so gelled that it was like we all did our part. Dave was a crazy special teams player. We relied on everybody and everybody did their part. So it was like the deep ball was me and the big play was me. The special teams was Dave. So it was like, but one of my favorite moments was playing against the Virginia Tech in the Dome, playing against Michael Vick. Now the year before, Michael Vick, this was his freshman year. The year before, he had visited Syracuse and I was hosting him. So
wow.
after we do our thing, we're in practice, and he's Michael Vick, everybody's recruiting him, but McNabb is still there. So he's behind our huddle. So I go and do my rep, and I come back to the house. I said, "What's up, man? What you thinking?" He's like, "Man, I'm not coming here." I ain't coming here. I'm not trying to be the next McNabb. I want to be, what I'm saying? I want to make my own name. So I was like, I can't fault you for that. You know what I'm saying? So it was that was that. But we played them the next year in the Dome, and we were, I ain't gonna say, I had a real good game. I think I had like 5 catches, 155 yards, and a touchdown. And I beat them on 2 deep balls, like back to back.
Pause on that. But anyway.
Yeah.
I was going to pause you before, but I just felt like
I know we was in that kind of. Okay,
no,
no,
because my grandson's going to watch this and he's going to say, "Dad, why you ain't pausing?"
Right.
I was like, I was letting him get away with the first one, but he's going to say it like 3 times.
I got you.
Go ahead.
All right, but yeah, so I had a real good game there, but we end up losing because my roommate was a linebacker. He pinched in. Vic went around the corner and scored in the last minute on us. But that game really put me on the map and made the whole Big East, aware of number one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so senior year, you go to the NFL Combine?
I didn't. I kind of strained my hamstring at our pro day, which was like a week before the Combine. So it was like, I was like, you know what I'm saying? I wanted to do our pro day because we had certain scouts there that were there just to see me, and so I definitely was going to work out there, but most of the time seniors, they don't work out at their pro day. They'll go and do the Combine first and then do their pro day. So we had a small pro day, and a few teams were there. The Bills, the Colts were the team that I thought I was going to go to, and then the Giants were coming on strong too, and then the Broncos, and there's a few teams that was there looking at me to see me run again. So I ran the 40, and right at the end of it, I kind of tweaked my hamstring, and it was I had some private workouts for the Colts set up that day. The Colts and the Bills set up that day after that, and I couldn't even do them.
So can you talk about, now we talked about the transition from high school to college. Talk about the transition from playing in college to the NFL, CFL, and how did you navigate the challenges in that sense?
So in that, and a lot of people don't know, and I'm glad you asked that question because it probably, if you see this, you probably understand what the transition is like from college to the pros. When you get to the NFL, they expect you to be a professional. You don't get taught nothing, absolutely nothing from your wide receivers coach or your quarterbacks coach. You don't get taught nothing. It's sink or swim. If you're the guy, then you're gonna win the position and play. If you go there and you got to get taught something, or if you don't pick the playbook up, it's the next man up, just like that. So that was the biggest transition. It was knowing that you're not getting coached. You go out there with what you know right now, and you got to win. You got to make the plays to help yourself out, because there's somebody else waiting for you. So that was the biggest transition, just knowing that, it's not a time where you're going to be coached. You just got to go out there and do.
How long did you play in the NFL?
So I was with the Bills for the year and a half, most of the time on the practice squad.
Yeah.
I suited up for the first 4 games, and then after that second year, I was seeing that I wasn't going to get a lot of playing time. So that's when I went to the CFL with the British Columbia Lions. I played over there. I was there for 2 years. Yeah. Then I came back it's a long story. So I was with the Bills.
Well, we here.
Yeah, I went to Bills, and then I went to Canada, on the West Coast. I loved it over there. It was nice. When I was there, my second year, I got a call from the Broncos. So I came back, and my second day with the Broncos, I turned my ankle real bad, stretched some ligaments out, and it sat me down for about 6 months. Ankle, right? Play football all your life, and the ankle take you out. It was weird. But I tried to come back on it too fast, end up hurting it again, and then that's when I had to really take like a year off and get it right, and then that's when I started the arena football.
Because people don't understand, like everything has to go perfectly for you to play at that level, because they're paying you a lot of money.
Yeah,
and when people hear the stories of things that people have done to be able to play, people don't realize people are trying to make sure they keep their checks. And keep their position. So that's why a lot of guys are playing hurt, taking pain medication, and doing all kind of stuff so they can make sure that they can maintain their profession.
Right.
And like you said, the one thing, to be taken out by an ankle is like, what?
Right.
But it depends on how bad you tear that ankle up.
Right. Yep.
And I remember, so one thing about this city, which it has changed, to me it's changed, because we got more guys that's playing professional basketball.
Right.
We've had more people in the NFL. Rochester, Willie Monroe and different people, but what people don't know is Charles Murray was Rochester's first and only world champion to this day.
Yeah.
But me and John would talk about it all the time. When John was playing in the NFL, people would have the NBA. People would have their comments, and I'm like, do you understand
how tough it is?
How exactly like what he has done?
Yeah, people don't have a clue. Man.
Yeah, you don't,
Yeah.
And so probably up until the last couple of years, I felt like we moved from being a crab city to where, or Mo this. So I'm the guy that's in a barbershop. I don't go to the barbershop anymore, but I'm the guy in the barbershop that know you guys and are arguing so I boxed growing up. So I know a little bit about what it takes to box at the level that Charles boxed at. That's why I didn't do it, because I didn't want to do or put the work in that takes to do what he was doing. And he's, I remember one guy was in the barbershop, was like, well, he washed up. I said, man, do you understand what his washed up look like?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Please, let's go somewhere where he can put some gloves on with you so you can see what it looked like to be washed up. You sound stupid.
Right.
As a matter of fact, my washed up is better than your whatever it is right now.
Right. Yeah.
Because you don't understand even what I know about. And it's the same thing. Well, you know, they would say stuff, oh, you play Division III basketball. Do you understand?
Right.
When I came back from college my freshman year, Division III basketball, that summer, I was murking people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of the nuances of the game that you learn. That you have no clue about, and you don't even realize some of them you're learning. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
You're like, you're playing, and somebody's defending you.
Yeah.
You're learning different ways to get open. You learn, you understand what I'm saying?
I know exactly.
Kind of speak to that for me because people don't understand that.
So it's like when you go. First of all, you're always the guy across from you is another elite athlete, right? So you got to be on top of your game every single time, every rep. If you go out there and get embarrassed once, you're written off. Like it's over. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna put a jacket on you that you don't really want. Or he's not good enough to get off the press coverage, or he can't catch the ball. He dropped two passes today, so he can't catch. Or he's not creating separation. So every single I'm talking football sense. So every single day I had to go out there and play against another top level athlete, and you got to win. You got to win sometimes. People say it's not all about winning. You got to go out there and really try to embarrass this guy. Every single chance you get.
You got to win your matchup.
When you go and you start to learn stuff, you learn how to like you said in football sense, you learn how to create separation when he pretty much sitting on your route or whatever. People probably don't know what I mean, but you still got to learn these little things that is going to get you over the top with people. So then when you come back and you playing against, you know, somebody that ain't been through that war that you've been through, it's easy. Like it's like cake. So it's like I'm not the type to ever brag about myself, but when I came back, it was a couple dudes that, you know, talked, and we went out on the field and I showed them. So it's like, you know, you got to put some respect on people that's doing that, because it's hard to do, man. It's hard to go out there every single day. And I tell people like this, right? I'm fast. I run fast. Imagine having to run your fastest every single day, every single play. Imagine having to do that.
But now watch, I'm gonna ask you a question and see if you can rock with me on this one. You were fast, but you also learned how to be quick.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean by that, right?
It's a difference.
Okay.
It's a difference. So and I'm glad you say that, because I'm probably a really good example of that. I'm short. And I can get from here to there faster than anybody, right? In that distance. Now, being quick is not the time you spend between those two lines. Being quick is how fast you can get started. So, prime example, Tariq Hill, he's not fast as I was, right? But he gets started so fast that once he gets started, if you gotta get started when he's already at top notch, he gonna go from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. If it takes you 4 seconds to go from 0 to 60,
he gone.
The end zone is coming sooner or later, so he's in there. You ain't catching him. So it's a difference between being fast and quick. I was gifted with both of them, but I was fast. I was a strider. But when you had to be quick, you got to put your feet in the ground.
And you can learn how to become quick.
You can learn how to be quick. Yeah, absolutely. You can learn that.
And when I try to tell people that with basketball, you know, as I got older and I played,
it's here. Being quick is here. You got to be able to think about what that person is doing and knowing what he's doing, or make him do what you're doing, because now you look like you're quick. So it's a difference. It's definitely a difference.
I was telling Kyron that, like, you know, I stopped playing pretty much before COVID, but I was still able to get to the basket against them, and they're younger than me because I'm no longer fast.
Right.
At one point I was fast, but now I'm quick.
Right.
I understand when I look at your lead foot, where to position myself to get around you and get you on my hip. And do, and then also how to bump you, how to, you know, all the little nuances that people don't understand. Because when I was in high school, I was straight finessing. First step was there, boom, gone. You know, but your first step don't mean nothing when you got a dude that's, you know what I'm saying?
It's a big difference.
Everybody is fast. How do I become quick? So, and then like I said, you learn how to bump, use your body. In football, basketball, it's the same thing.
yeah.
I always tell people that if you can understand this about basketball is simple separation. The defense is trying to take space away.
Yep.
The offensive player is trying to create space.
Yep.
And if you can create space and you understand how to do it the right way, you're going to be quick and you're going to get to the basket a little easier. You're going to get your shot off. It's all the same.
Yeah.
And that was the thing I learned my freshman year. And I was playing against some slow, and I'm going to say it, some slow people. And I was going to say the color of the people, but I ain't going to say it. And I'm like, yo, how is this dude killing me like this?
Yeah.
And you figure it out. It's like, wait a minute. Okay.
Use your leverage against you.
Come on,
and then
man.
Go with it.
Yeah.
It's definitely a learned science to it.
Like, he got me to rock this way. And when I rock this way,
Right.
I remember one dude told me this. Because he said, his name is Jerry Green from D.C., man. He played with Sam Cassell and them and stuff.
Okay.
He says, Rodney, I said, Jerry, how you get your shot off like that? That dude's 6'11". Jerry Green, if I show you a picture of him, he like a straight nerd. He about 5'6".
Yeah.
But he was nice.
Yeah.
And he was like, Rodney, if a guy's 6'10", and he's backpedaling, if I jump into his chest, can he jump forward and block my shot? You can't jump forward backpedaling to block a shot.
Right.
So I'm gonna jump into his chest. I'm gonna use his you talk about leverage. I'm gonna use it against him, and I'm gonna bump against him, and I'm gonna create the space to score. And I was like, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah.
Because you can't move back and jump forward at the same time.
Right. Yep.
But
So
you wasn't thinking that at the Boys and Girls Club.
I thought like that, man. I'm telling you, that's
what
I thought like that. I always thought like that because it's like if you, it's hard to explain, but I always thought like that. I always thought like if I can get him to do this, I know what I can. I know where I can press. I know where I can go and do certain things. But it's like I always thought that way.
That's why you were an elite athlete. That's why I sucked.
And I'm telling you, that's a lot. When you talk about elite athletes, that's why guys like Charles Murray is so good because he can anticipate what he's seeing or make you do what he's going to anticipate.
Come on, man.
Same thing with me. I would anticipate what you're going to do or what I'm going to make you do, and then it's going to be.
And you know what he said about that? He said he knew it was time to retire when he could see it but couldn't touch
react to it. Yeah.
Yep. And when he first said it to me, I was like, what? He was like, no, I could see it, but I couldn't touch it. I knew it was time for me to retire. And your term was react to it. Like, I see it, but same thing with me. I could see the lane.
Right.
And somebody may say to me, why didn't you drive?
I
couldn't react to it.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
My body's like, don't do that.
Yep.
You're going to kill yourself. I hear you try to do that. That's crazy.
Yep.
But you always thought like that.
I always thought like that. I don't know where it came from, but I did, honestly.
Okay, we got a couple more questions. We out of here.
Yep.
With your businesses, the Speed Factory, MJ Speed, and Skill School, what were your goals in supporting youth and athletes in Rochester? And how did you come up with the whole concept of starting that particular business?
Good question. So
I try to come up with some good ones.
Yeah. I'm glad you asked because after I stopped playing, of course, guys our age were having kids, and a lot of people, they heard about the speed, so they started to come to me and ask me, Mo, why don't you train my son? Why don't you train my daughter? So it kind of like fell in my lap, and then I thought about it a bunch, and then I was like, and then I started to lose sleep about it. I started to think about it at night. So it kind of happened weird. I think it was God telling me to do it. I was actually taking my son to go play to sign up for basketball. The first time I'm taking him out, I'm like, all right, we're gonna see what you got. We're gonna sign you up for basketball. So I took him over to Lincoln Avenue where Mook was, in the gym. And Mook had this space rented. He had the basketball court in the back, but the front space, it was a smaller basketball court. And he said, Mo, man, and I was training some kids already, and people started to hear about it. He said, Mo, why don't you come in here and bring your business in here? He wanted some help with the location and stuff. So I was like, let me think about it, man. It won't be bad for me to have my own space to train. So I leave there and I go because I look at the space. And I'm like, all right, if I want to do this, the first thing I'm gonna have to do is get some turf laid out in this place. So I go and I look online for some turf, and Man, I looked online. The first thing I clicked into was a business in Rochester, in Scottsville, matter of fact, selling rows of turf that would cover the space that was in there for like $50 a roll, when this stuff was usually like $400 a roll. So I'm like, oh man, I bought all of it. I bought all the turf they had.
I bet you did.
So
you buy some and save it.
So yeah, so I told Mook, I said, hey man, I'm coming. It's a done deal. So I went in there and laid it down. But then I started, you got to have a good business plan. So I started to think about, what's the plan? What do I want to do? So I started to say, like, how I am and where I come from, the people I played with, those are my brothers, you know what I'm saying? And white, black, whatever. So I started to think like, a lot of our black kids don't have the opportunities that a lot of the white kids have, for whatever reason. So I was like, if I can do this and bring those two groups together, that would be a good cause. You know what I'm saying? Because if I can get, a little black kid from the city and a little white kid from the suburbs to come and become best friends, then that could help both of them out. You know what I'm saying? And help the world out. So I started it in that kind of essence and took it from there. And I knew that I was a good coach because I had coached at the University of Rochester for 5 years, football.
And you know what? I was going to mention that in your intro, but I wasn't completely sure about. I saw it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. Yeah. And how did that go when you were there?
That's when I kind of figured that I was a good coach. And it was good for me because it was a challenge. It was a challenge of turning these kids that wanted to play football, but these kids were University of Rochester students, so they're there for school. They ain't football players.
Yeah.
But it was a challenge of turning these dudes into football players, and I saw that I was making some real guys that weren't as athletic as that you're used to seeing on the football field. I was turning them into good receivers, and they were loving me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The boys, we had this relationship, and that's when I found out I was a good coach. So that's when I started to bring kids in and train them, and it went real well for me.
Okay, so how many kids, off the top of your head, or you don't have to name names, or you can, has come through your program and ended up playing high school, who probably wouldn't have played, college, and beyond?
Man, it's a lot. It's a lot. A lot of kids that didn't think that they would make it to the college level. We kind of built the biggest thing that we did in training them was building their confidence. Confidence is key in sports. So we took it took them through the process, and before you know it, they were on the field making plays. They were getting bigger because we was lifting with them and all that kind of stuff. But it was a bunch. It was probably, I would say, we sent probably 30 to 50 kids to college.
Wow.
Not knowing that, kids walking in the door as kids, and through high school, I've been doing it for like 10 years now. So their whole high school career, they got better and better, and then they ended up, the fruits of it was, hey man, you get to choose where you're going to go to school. Look at that.
Get to choose where you're going to go to school, and go to school for free too.
Right.
Which a lot of people probably needed it because they were coming from environments where they didn't have the money to be able to go to school, and probably wouldn't have been. And some of them probably were the first in their families to do it.
Yeah. And I got to add this part to it. The difference, and I'm not, this is never a knock on any other, but the kids that train with me, the stuff that they learn in the process is what helps them out. The training is what it is, right? We can run them to death and get them tired and put them through drills that they're gonna learn, but it's the things that they learn because of my experiences. I was able to tell kids, listen, because Rochester is known for sending the kid to college and the kid coming back home. He ain't make it. So the things that they got from me, and what I think is most important, was I was telling them flat out, listen, you're going to go to college. You're going to be getting your butt kicked for the first year. You're going to have to take it. You got to take that. You're going to get your ass whooped every day. That's when you're going to see if you're not only a D1 athlete, but you got to be a D1 person. That's a part of being a D1 person. If you can take the beating that you're going to take your first year and then go back for more, and then your second year come out, that's when them beatings going to calm down a little bit because you're going to be able to hold your own. Your third year, you're going to have to be giving the beatings out. And then your senior year, we're going to see where you land, because a lot of kids don't get that talk when they're going to college. You left here the man, and the people that's around you got you thinking you're going to go there and be the man. That is not the case. You're going to go there and have to take your lumps, and what's going to make or break you is if you get on that bus or in the car to come back home and thinking that you're not going back. So you just got to go in there and be a dog and take what's coming to you, and then make it work for yourself.
Awesome. We got to get you out of here. talk a little bit about your coaching philosophy as a head coach at the U of R and the Aquinas Institute. What coaching philosophy did you kind of implement to inspire and develop your players? And how do you believe it contributed to your team's recent success?
Yep.
Another good question.
Good question. Real good question. My coaching philosophy came from my knowledge of the game. I'm a student of the game still. I learned a lot of good football. I learned the game from who I think is the best coaching staff in the world. Coach George DeLeon, God bless the dead. Coach Paul Pasqualoni, Coach Walker, Coach Griffin was my wide receiver coach. Coach Stoutland, who is actually the offensive line coach at the Eagles right now. So I learned from them dudes.
Bro, they was a monster this year too.
So I learned from them dudes. So my knowledge of the game was I took from everybody. You know what I'm saying? When you're a coach, you got to take what you like and what works for you. So I took from everybody. And I think my philosophy is teach the kids how to teach themselves. So if you're teaching them how to teach themselves, then they get to learn the game. And in football, if you know the game, if you're knowledgeable of the game, you don't have to think. You can fly around. That's when you got a good football team. Because if you can play without having to think, then you can play fast. And playing fast is the name of the game. So I think that contributed to our success because I was told by a coach, if you're going to be the man, if you're going to be the coach, you got to have all the answers. You got to have all the answers, flat out. If you don't have all the answers, then take a back seat to the person that has all the answers. And that's just how it is in football. So I think my knowledge of the game and then letting the kids see that Coach Mo knows what he's doing, right? He knows what he's doing and it's working. Not only can I say it, but when you go out there and do it, it's working. So for Aquinas, it was me coming in and the coaches that I was coaching with, I kept the same staff. I didn't bring in my guys or nothing. I was thinking about if what I knew about the game would be too advanced for the high school level. So once I got my feet wet and I saw that I could change a little things, dumb it down a little bit, it was still good. It was still good money. So when I got there and I implemented a lot of stuff, it was working, and then I had some athletes. But there was a few things that I had to come in and put my foot down that I had to change. And that kind of contributed to all the craziness that happened with it. But there were some things that I had to change that made us successful. I could run through those things, but it was like, and I'll give it real quick because we're talking, and then some coaches are probably going to see this. In high school football, if you set the edge in football on the defense, you set the edge, you make your defensive ends, don't let nothing outside you. You bottle the ball up, that's defense. That's stopping the run. Set the edge, emphasize setting the edge to your defense every single time, no matter what, no excuses. You set the edge, and right now with offenses, they're doing all this bunch formation and all that kind of stuff. It's tricky. You got to play cover 2 to it. You got to play a zone to it, and don't let that flat route, don't leave the flats open. Boom, you stop that. The third thing that I really had to put my foot down was stop blitzing in high school. Stop blitzing. You don't need to blitz because, for one, you're not running into no 4-star quarterback that's just going to dink and dunk you. So every coach that you're playing against, they know they have a fish on the line of scrimmage. They know they got a player that really can't block. They probably got 2 of them in every high school team. So they know that. So they know they got to get rid of the ball fast. They're not going to sit back there and do a whole drop back and let your blitz get home. So nobody's blitzes are getting home. Stop blitzing. Sit your players back and make them throw through a covered zone. And then like the last thing that I talked about was certain special teams things that you got to do. But my knowledge of the game was what got us, made us successful.
So y'all win the sectional title. Second year. Go to the state semifinals. Very close game down to the wire.
Yeah, man. Oof.
I watched it on because my thought was, I'm not going to come to Binghamton. I can't remember where I was at. I was out of town somewhere, but I'm going to be at the Dome for the state game.
Yep.
And I told my grandson that I said, if y'all win, I will be at the Carrier Dome. I don't care who I have to kill.
Yeah. Now, you could have called me. I got you on the side.
No, I'm just talking about
I got you.
the fact that if I was somewhere on the West, anywhere in the world, I was getting back to New York State to be at that game. So I'm watching it online, And somebody posted on Facebook and I said, oh my God, I can watch it online. And it's down to the wire. And I'm actually thinking they're going to end up pulling this out. But you go from coaching your first year. What was your record your first year?
My first year, so I was there as a receivers coach. My first year, we won 3 games.
So you were only the head coach 1 year.
I was the head coach for 2.
2 years.
Yeah, my first year as a head coach, we went from a 3-win season to 7 wins.
And it's only 8 games in a season. So y'all went
10.
7,
Yeah,
10.
Yeah.
There's 10 in the. I thought it was 8 in the regular season.
It's 8 in the regular season.
Yeah.
But we won a playoff game too.
Okay, so y'all went 7 games. This year, y'all record was
We won 10 games. I want to say.
you win a sectional championship, and the elephant in the room for anybody that's watching, trust me, they're watching because they're waiting for us to talk about it.
Yeah.
Is you get fired.
Yep.
You are winning. You are turning the program around, and you get fired.
Yeah.
What can you talk about? And I know some things you can't talk about.
Yeah.
So that people can understand how this could happen, and you're winning.
Yeah. So the thing what I can say about that whole situation is it was a culmination of things that led to some bad blood between myself and the administration of the school.
Okay.
It was a bunch of things since I started. And I will say that it was because some things were happening and going on that I wasn't letting slide. I wasn't comfortable with turning a blind eye to, and I would speak up about it every single time. So it was a bunch of that, and then once it came down to, people realizing and understanding that I wasn't that kind of guy that I wasn't just going to let these things happen. That it started to create some tension between us, and then it was a last situation that kind of took me to having to say, all right, I see what's going on here. I'm going to go and just tell my story to HR, make sure I get it documented, make sure, not even documented because, HR works for the school. They don't really protect the people. I just wanted to make sure that, it was documented that I had to go to HR for something, whatever it was. So I went to HR. I had to, let everything know, make everything known about the stuff that I was actually not complaining about, but making them understand that I wasn't okay with it. It wasn't just going to happen, and I was just going to be quiet about it because it was some racial things, and it was some things that just wasn't okay. It just wasn't fair. So I went and I did that, and then 2 days later they decided to bring me in and give me the options of resigning, walking away, or being fired. And I said, you're gonna have to fire me because I'm gonna put it on y'all to have to answer these questions on why y'all fired a coach that was successful like we were.
Yeah, I just had a friend go through something, not in the coaching realm, but where they were brought in or they were called and said you could, you can quit, resign, or be fired. And it's like, no, if I didn't do anything wrong,
right? Exactly.
So
that was it.
You're gonna have to fire me.
Yep.
And then now you can answer the questions.
Yep.
How did you feel as far as the community response?
Oh man.
To this whole thing, because it's been a little.
Yeah. I love Rochester, right? Rochester's always loved me and showed me love, and when it hit social media, it went crazy. I know you saw it. It went crazy. For a couple of different reasons, of course. Rochester has always had my back. I've always come back and given back to the community in every way I can, and they showed it. They showed that they had my back that day. It went crazy. It went viral, but it happened for a couple of reasons because Aquinas has always had that stigma of being like that. You know what I'm saying? And I knew it. I knew.
Oh, you see right now, parents are they putting up letters and they talking about things that like this is becoming bigger and also providing a platform for people who didn't have a voice to say, okay, this is what happened to us.
Yes.
And nobody's talking about it or no one has done anything about it. And the truth of the matter is a lot of times when you are involved in, I'm watching my words, so systemic racism is always harder for people who are not a part of that system to see.
Yep.
And they always think that the people on the outside of it is just finding things to complain about that are not really there.
Right.
But when you're not a part of that, when you are a part of the system, you may not even recognize that you're a part of a
Right.
system because you've been indoctrinated in it
Right.
from the beginning.
Right.
It is just your right, your privilege. It is just I'm trying to be careful with my words.
I get you.
So some people can't see it, but surprisingly, some people who you wouldn't think would be for you have been for you.
Yeah.
And so I think it's an interesting dynamic that is being played out. I think that they're going to get some heat that they don't want,
Yeah.
but I'm going to tell you like this: they don't really care about,
Right.
because if you cared about it, some of these things that we're hearing, other than your situation coming forth, would have been addressed a long time ago.
Yeah.
But what we have to do again, and this is one thing I'm proud about, is at least for one of the first times in a long time, we see that our community is sticking together. And when I say community, I'm not just saying
The blacks. Yeah.
because we see
Everybody.
white people that are supporting you.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'm glad that people are sticking together and are basically saying enough.
Right.
You know, these systems have to come down. These systems have to come down. And it may not do anything major at this particular point, but it needs to be exposed.
Right. Exactly.
Now, what I've been praying for is that in the process, that people sometimes in their, again, I'm trying to be careful with my words. I'm going to say it and I'm going to get in trouble, but I don't care because I'm not running for any offices or anything, so I don't have to be politically correct. How do I say this? I'm still trying to be politically correct.
Found myself being like that a few times lately.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm going to leave it alone because what I was going to say was about to be harsh. And it was going to be harsh too because I've known you since you were like 12 years old. So also know. But what I want to prepare you for and pray for, and we need to be prepared for in the community, there's going to be some harsh lies that's about to be said about you.
Oh yeah.
And we have to make sure as a community that we understand that when people are trying to win and look good, that they will bash and smash another person's character. But we have to make sure that we do not fall trap or fall prey to the narrative that's about to come forth.
Now, I will say this. So
I think I said it okay.
I always like to think of myself or keep myself in a light that I'm always gonna be aware, right? I'm always aware. So I went into that job aware. I went in that job aware of everything. That there's never been a guy in that position, and that's a prestigious position, right? Probably the number one football program in the state. There's never been a guy with my skin color. So I and then of course when I took the job, everybody behind me is warning me like, Mo, be careful, right? So I knew I had to go into that position squeaky clean. I knew I had to be in that position squeaky clean, and that's what I did. I made sure that there's nothing that they can say about me that would do what you're saying. You know, they can make up stuff, but it'd be silly.
But the problem is the time that we're living in.
Yeah.
People have a tendency to run with the narratives.
Yes. Without knowing anything.
Without knowing, and don't even care to know.
But also, when I say I was squeaky clean, I did everything the right way. When I say I documented everything, I documented everything. So whenever anything comes out, you're gonna have to prove that because I can prove it. I can show you right now in my phone. I can show you the proof that I have. So you're gonna have to prove that everything.
Well, I'm just saying, I know for a fact, I'm not going to say any names, I'm not going to say anything of that nature. I know for a fact, even in your coaching, they've questioned some of the players you played. Well, if you're questioning the player that I played and you look at the statistics and you look at the numbers, because numbers don't lie. People do, but numbers don't lie.
Numbers don't lie.
If the numbers don't lie, and let's say hypothetically, you were favoring a player. If the player performed at the highest level,
right,
that's why you played them.
I mean, obviously, all our players performed at the highest level.
But
right?
you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Of course, 100%. And that's if that's the case, then you got to explain. If that's the case you're gonna make, you got to explain, okay, if that person played and we won, then maybe he was the right person to be playing, right?
Yeah.
But if you know me and you know, like people that know me, you got to know that I'm a person of the game. I'm a football lifer. That's what we call it. I'm a football lifer. So I'm not going to do anything to discredit the game because the game has been so good to me.
And you want to win.
And I want to win, right?
So I got to play the kids.
And we won.
Yeah,
You know
and
what
we
I'm saying?
won.
So whoever we played with, we won.
We won.
You know what I'm saying? So that was my thing too. Like the best players are always going to play.
Well, listen, I used to coach my sons.
Yeah.
And one particular time I was coaching my sons and, came through St. Monica's, CYO.
Yeah,
I did biddy with them, TYO
Yeah.
with them, and I forgot a little bit of some AAU. But I remember people, his son is only playing because it's his son.
Yeah.
But what they didn't realize is my son Rodney was playing, but Tyler was sitting on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler came up to me one game. He was like, "Dad, am I getting in the game?" I said, "You want to win?" Mm-hmm. He said, "Yeah." I said, "Then go sit down."
Yeah. They
Now,
don't see that stuff. Nobody's ever going to see that stuff.
No,
Nobody's ever going to see that.
But
kind
they're
of
like, "Oh, his sons are playing."
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
Rodney's playing, and
Right.
he deserved every minute
Right.
he was getting.
Right.
But same thing when he goes to high school, he's playing, or the coach is showing favoritism because of the father, or it's because of this.
Right.
Like, no, he can play. He a dog.
Right.
Like, listen, man, I can't play for him.
Right.
So I
Exactly.
remember Chris Reed said this. He was coaching at Russ. We was talking about it. He was like, "Man, people can say what they want to say. He had 30 last night.
Right.
There's no
Right.
favoritism that can put that basket,
Right.
the ball in the basket. You
Right.
got to know how to play."
Yep.
So people just be saying crazy things.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just saying, Rochester and abroad, we're praying because there are going to be accusations that come against them. But I've already been praying, and now I'm becoming who I really am.
Yeah.
Isaiah 57. 54 and 17, no weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises up against you, you shall condemn, for this is the inheritance of the righteous. So we know that it's coming, and since we know that it's coming, we're going to all be together and all rally together, and we're going to start making sure we pray, and that we stick together, and that we support you through this.
I appreciate
I want
that.
you to know that I love you,
Love you
and
too,
right
bro.
before we end, I almost ended it on that.
Yeah.
5 most influential people in your life.
Oh man. 5 most influential people.
I always
in
ask
my
this
life.
at the end.
I gotta say, my mom and my dad, of course.
You got to stop right there.
Yep.
I love it.
Yep.
That tells me everything I need to know about you. But go ahead. Your mom and your
Yep.
dad.
My
You want
mom
to say
and my
why?
dad. Yeah, I can say why. My mom was just strong. My mom and my dad wasn't always together, but my mom was always about her kids first. She was strong. She was tough. She didn't let nothing slide with us, and that's why, I got that in me now. Like you said, I'm always even keel, but I get a lot of my toughness from my mom. My dad taught me I think my most powerful lesson. He just taught me right from wrong. It's always it's always a decision to make. It's the bad decision or the right one, right? The wrong, right and wrong. And he said, if you go with the right one, you never be wrong. So
If you go with the right one, you'll never be wrong. Go ahead, Pops.
So that was I think that's the biggest lesson I've learned in my life, right and wrong.
So they take up 2 spots of the 5.
Yep,
Okay.
2. I gotta say, my brother, my older brother took care of me. Like when I say took care of me. He made sure I stayed out of trouble. If we did get in trouble, he took the blame. But he raised me. He was the one when my mom and them wasn't there. He was the one cooking for us and all that. So my brother, and then he was my biggest fan. My older brother was my biggest fan.
You almost made me cry there, man. Let me tell you why. Everybody in his top 3 is family. And it shows you how important and the power of family. Look at the man you've become because of your family.
Yep.
Number 4.
Man, I got to keep going with family. And then it's my little brother.
Oh, my God.
Eddie?
Eddie?
Eddie, and Eddie don't even know this. It's Eddie because he was the reason why I had to stay on the right track because he was watching me. You know what I'm saying? He was watching me so close. So I had somebody that I had to take care of. He came up after us, and Eddie was not only watching me on the field, but watching me off the field. So that's the reason why I never been drunk a day in my life. I never smoked anything a day in my life. I got somebody watching me. And he ended up being the best wide receiver high school football in Rochester has ever seen.
And then he went to.
He went to JUCO in New York, but
but I thought he went to Division I school too.
No, he was on his way. He should have, but he didn't want to do no schoolwork. But it's all good. But yeah, so he was watching me.
He was nice though, but he didn't want to do it.
Eddie. Everybody know Eddie was the best receiver ever to come.
He told me that. Yeah. But I'm biased. I was like, man, stop it.
Yeah,
he's like, no, I'm telling you for real.
He was
because he walked with that. He pitched it toe.
He's not as athletic as I am, like fast and jumping high and all that kind of stuff. But as far as the position, he got it.
Wow.
And then the last person I would say was my. I got to group them together. My 2 high school coaches, Coach B and Coach Ragland. I'm sorry, Coach B and Coach Jones. Coach B coached me my first ever year playing football, and then he came and got me from going to McQuaid. Who knows where my life would have been if I wasn't with my friends and being pushed like I was every day as an athlete. So he made that decision. He made the decision to take me off the basketball court and onto the track, which got me all those college offers. And to this day, he's my mentor. Coach Jones made some similar decisions for me too. Him not giving me all those college letters before it was time, he said, I didn't give you these letters because I didn't want you to get big-headed. I remember those words to this day. And then he made some decisions along the way as well that kind of made sure that I stayed, on with
you talking about Coach Ron Jones?
Coach Ron Jones, yeah. Him teaching me things that I still hear to this day. And I heard all through my sports career, I heard his voice saying, certain things that he taught me. And so them 5 people influenced me the most.
Man, powerful. Well, listen, I love you. I appreciate you coming on. I told you, I had a whole lot of questions. I said I'm going to cover your life as much as I can. And so I'm so grateful that you came on. And, it has been a pleasure interviewing you, but it's been a pleasure knowing you and watching you come from being a young man to, I say young man, but young man, a teenager to an adult. And your children are the better for it, and everybody in this community is the better for it. I want to thank you. And listen, we want to make sure that you, if you want to get in touch with Coach Mo, you want him to come speak, you want him to come do something for you, how can they reach out to you, Mo?
They can reach out to me on Facebook. My Facebook handle is Mo Jackson, MOE Jackson. You can reach me through, I don't want to give I usually do give my phone number for people to reach me like that, but usually through social media, or you can reach out to Rodney and he'll do it. Reach out to him.
They shut it down right there.
Reach out to him.
They shut it down right there. Well, listen, we got to go. I don't kept them long enough. I want to thank you again for tuning into the Truth Podcast. Always remember, you should know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Love you. See you next week.
Thanks for having me.